Louder for the immediate resignation of U.S. Attorney General Eric Holder. Republican leaders saying the Attorney General is refusing to take responsibility for the crimes connected to Fast and Furious. One lawmaker really amps it up, saying some Obama administration officials may be accessories to murder. That lawmaker, Congressman Paul Gosar, joins us. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Greta.
All right, so you are really zeroing in on the Attorney General. By the way, have you received his letter of October 7th and read his description of Fast and Furious and what he knew about it and when?
Well, we've read it, Greta, and we totally disagree with him on what he knew, because he's either lying or he's really incompetent about the way he's processed Fast and Furious.
Well, in his letter, and Congressman, help me, in his letter he said that he was getting weekly reports that Fast and Furious existed, and those reports, I assume, are available to you. And but within those reports, it named it but didn't describe the operation. He literally gets hundreds and probably thousands of these weekly reports. Is that a fair statement of what his letter says?
No, that can't. I mean, Greta, you heard the gentleman talk about the activity that's been on our southern border. You know, over 40,000 people, Mexican people, have lost their lives. And to make sure that this wasn't a priority item, give me a break. In April 2nd of 2009, he outlines tactical changes to Operation Gunrunner that he's going to implement. And the president amplifies that again on April 16th, right after that, in Mexico. So you can't tell me that they didn't understand this, and this wasn't a bullet point that they were going to concentrate on.
You know, I actually think it, you know, as sad as it is, I don't think that they have considered Mexico a priority issue. I think that there's a war been going on in Mexico. I don't know if you remember, is that Secretary of State Hillary Clinton described Mexico as resembling Colombia of 20 years ago and got rebuked from both President Calderon and President Obama. I actually of the mind that they haven't been paying attention to this.
Well, you know, out in Arizona, anything we do, even when we sneeze, we get some addressing from this administration. So I don't think that's the case, Greta. And to have this any other way, if there was a vigilante group as far as the Justice and ATF, that's even worse. That's incompetence.
What do you want the Attorney General to do? Do you want him to resign? Do you want him to come up to the Hill and testify under oath? What do you want?
I'd love to have him comply with the subpoenas, and I'm glad that Congressman Issa put out a new set of subpoenas so that we're going to have high-ranking justice officials coming forward to tell us what they know. But what we're seeing in here is Main Street is held to a certain set of rules, and yet a bureaucrat in the administration in this Department of Justice is held to a whole different standpoint. You know, that's just ludicrous, and particularly when the American people find out they were used as pawns here. Their lives. We're not going to find these guns except on crime scenes. We allowed people to take these guns, in many cases told the gun salespeople to sell the guns. And then we did no surveillance, we did no tracking, and so what were we asking for here? An accident to happen? And that's exactly what's occurring here.
Do you have any, not suspicion, but actual any proof of how high up the authorization of Fast and Furious went at Justice?
Well, I think we're seeing some of the memos coming out, you know, from earlier on in April of last year, where we're starting to see the cognizant aspect. We see hints of it, you know, from Mr. Holder's speech in Mexico that outlines a very tactical change on the border with Secretary of Homeland Security Napolitano, and they're going to put the resources onto that. And this orchestrates exactly what you see in Fast and Furious, Greta.
Well, I'm hoping that they quickly come up and give you and answer your questions so that we can get this one sorted out, because I actually think there is a war going on in Mexico, and to the extent that we can have a lot of attention on that war would be very helpful, and I think both to the people of Mexico and to the Americans. But we'll see. I
agree. You know, Go ahead, Greta.
No, go ahead, sir.
We were just used. This was so egregious that, you know, it never followed any type of you know, law enforcement rules. They broke every single rule. And when you see a special agent, Greta, coming forward and testifying, saying they took this book that I professed an oath to uphold and defend this country and to protect people, but then they put these high-powered weapons in criminals' hands, what were you expecting? They took that book and they ground it up. This is egregious, and I think the more people understand, this is about America, and it's about how we do things in America, and this was wrong. I do know what's right and what's wrong. I hope that Mr. Holder understands that as well.
Well, I just hope we get answers and find out exactly what did happen. Congressman, thank you, sir.